Is reading important? Throughout our days as school children, the idea that reading is important is continuously stressed. Learning how to read, reading for enjoyment, and reading to learn, all of these things are deemed necessary to become a successful adult. Which is best, reading or technology? Each has their advantages, but which will be more beneficial for an adult to utilize? In the future, I believe that technology will be more prevalent in everyday life than reading and writing. Humans are known for improving every part of life. We are known for finding better ways to do things and leaving the old behind. But when it comes to people's opinions, I've yet to find someone who thinks reading will ever be a thing of the past. To further investigate this subject, I decided to talk with a fellow Western Washington University student, my friend Laura Charette.
Okay, so what I want to focus on in this documentary is the idea that going forward, reading and writing is not going to be as prevalent as technology is. So in today's culture, kids go to school from kindergarten through third grade and they learn to read. And it's a big part of school. And then from there on, you read to learn. So I'm exploring the idea that reading is going to become less prevalent and we're going to be able to use those early years because you don't have to focus on reading so much and just gaining knowledge. So that's what I'm kind of delving into. So do you believe reading is important?
I personally do believe reading is important, and playing off that technology aspect that you were talking to me about, in order to even use technology in the first place, we do need to have the knowledge of reading, because nowadays, I understand that maybe in the future we might not need to use it as much, but nowadays, just having to go on a website, research papers, even just for pleasure to go on the internet, for example, like Facebook or etc., you do need to have the ability to read, because words are prevalent everywhere, all over the internet, and in technology in general.
Yeah, I definitely know what you mean. Like, even when you walk into a grocery store, you have to be able to read because there's signs everywhere. But I'm thinking in the future, maybe we won't need to. The way our brain works, the way our synapses in our brain works, is it's either on or it's off. And so when we write technology and code and binary and things like that, we write in kind of that on-off situation with zeros and ones. And I'm thinking in the future we're more going to be focusing on that type of code. And being able to communicate with kind of the same way our brain works is going to be easier for us through that kind of technology than reading. Because even just writing a paper, you kind of fumble a little bit in your brain trying to find that one word you're thinking of. Because your brain doesn't think like you write. Your brain doesn't think like you read. You have to do almost like a translation within your brain. And that's what kind of why reading has been so big, because you do have to have that translation, and it's almost like taking your thoughts and organizing them in that linear fashion has been a big part of society forever. But I think that going into the future we're going to focus more on binary code, just coding in general, and we're not going to have reading as much as prevalent.
All right, so the brain does work in binary code, you were saying, correct? So, maybe it does work in that fashion, but throughout history and just in general, language is a big part of our society as well as our culture in general. So, and reading is part of that communication. So, even if in the future we might not need to use, exactly words to communicate maybe on paper, we still need to have that language aspect, which is kind of also important when using reading or words to communicate. So I really do believe we should still teach our children how to read.
It's definitely an important part of our society. It's just an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah, it is.
Laura believes that reading is important, and I understand why. Reading allows for a linear and structured description of an idea and is a great way to organize your thoughts. The essay, What Novels Can Do That Films Can't, written by Seymour Chapman, spotlights specific advantages in reading over viewing. Chapman wrote, events are stopped, though our reading or discourse time continues, and we look at the characters and the setting elements as a tableau vivant. While reading, an author is able to stop a scene and describe each object in minute detail, even though the character may have only glanced at the object. It is rare for each specific object in a documentary or movie to be focused on. Rather, the viewer is expected to take in the surroundings at a glance. An author is also able to describe each character, while video forces us to get to know the character as the story progresses. Important details might be missed during this type of viewing. Although the linear structure of reading is beneficial for organizing your thoughts, this type of linear thinking is becoming less and less common in today's society. For example, PowerPoint versus Prezi. PowerPoint has slides. You go from slide 1 to 2 to 3 and so forth. Using Prezi, you have one large map, and the challenge is to try and find new and creative ways to travel through that wide map. Reading is structured much like PowerPoint. You read linearly, and you learn things as the narrator allows you to learn them. Prezi is a new type of presentation software and is a great example of how technology is becoming non-linear. When examining everyday adult life, I have found that being able to understand technology is sometimes more important than being able to read. Reading essays, newspapers, and books are less important than creating a Facebook page or a Twitter account. A successful business needs a commercial and advertisements on websites. In the future, technology will most likely prevail over reading and writing, although whether or not reading will ever come to an end is still unknown.
Zero, 110. 110.